Good evening, everyone. This is Dale Gabor, your Director of Cross Country and Track and Field, and I would like to address you on the issues of the 2021 Track and Field State Rules Interpretation Meeting. There are a number of changes, as you well can imagine, due to the pandemic, and because of that, I would ask you to pay particular attention to these changes. We have included some of the normal things that would have been in place had we had a normal season. However, under the circumstances, we have edited a number of things and would ask you to pay close attention to what we have to say there. Thank you. As we begin our presentation, I do want to take a moment just to somewhat apologize to many of the coaches and many of the officials who are out there who have seen so much of this in the past. But due to the fact that we do have a number of new officials each year and the fact that we do have a significant number of new coaches, I think it is important that we go back on some things for their benefit. And again, I would ask your indulgence as we go through some of this, which I know many of you are very, very familiar with. Beginning first of all, of course, with our state interpreters, I do want to again remind everyone, myself, Bob Muehlman, and Steve Hurley, and if you have any questions, please, especially under the existing circumstances, please do not hesitate to contact any one of us so that we can help you out and make sure that you forward the correct information to your officials as well as to your coaches. Let us begin then with the OHSAA information regarding the track and field manual for 2021. Going into our manual on sections 1 through 6, I do want to highlight for you all the important dates, preseason information, and of course contact information for the Coaches Association as well as the Officials Association. And please feel free again to contact any of those people if you have any questions regarding your local association or perhaps questions regarding officiating. In section 3.2, our regional track and field tournaments, again, this has been in place for a number of years now, but we do want to remind people that in regional competition, all events with the semifinals, of course, will qualify 2 from each heat with the next 4 fastest times going to the finals. Likewise, in the state competition, all events with semifinals will qualify 2 from each heat and the next 4 fastest times. And I do want to highlight the fact that it will be the next 4 fastest times in 2021 due to the fact that we will not be at Ohio State and due to the fact that the tracks that we will be using will only have 8 lanes, and so we will not be advancing 9 as we typically have done, but we will only be advancing 8, which means we will take the top 2 from each heat and the next 4 fastest times. Along those same lines, again, and this may be of some disappointment to some people, however, we will be advancing 18 qualifiers to the state tournament in field events, while unfortunately we will only be able to advance 16 qualifiers in all running events. Again, the top 4 places in each region will qualify, and the next 2 best performances across the state in all field events likewise will qualify. Moving forward, the next half dozen slides or so deal with the state advancement procedures for seated athletes. And as you might imagine, due to the limited space and due to the fact that we have to make some allowances, there are a number of changes in the procedures for seated athletes as well. Now, effective for 2021 only, this year only, if we have 1 to 8 competitors who qualified based on their times, all of them will compete in one section on the day of the state finals. Now, however, if we have 9 to 18 who qualified on time, uh, in they will compete in 2 or more seeded heats on Friday to determine the 8 qualifiers on Saturday using the same procedures as indicated earlier. That is, we will take the top 2 from each heat along with the next 4 fastest times. And of course, if there are 19 or more competitors with qualifying standards, we will, of course, conduct regional competition held the week before to limit that number and to reduce it down to 18 for the state semifinals, and then go back to the normal procedure of advancing the top 8 to the finals. And of course, coaches, as we advance towards the regional competition, like coaches who are interested in serving on a games committee, should please notify the tournament manager. That used to be the responsibility of me to assign to assign a games committee. However, we have turned that over to the specific tournament manager. So if you are interested, please contact your appropriate tournament manager. I do want to remind everyone in 2021, as well as next year, and probably as long as I can see, Divisions 1 and 3 will continue to compete on Wednesday and Friday, and Division 2 will compete on Thursday and Saturday in regional competition. Coaches, regarding the mandatory pole vault education, again, I do want to just highlight this briefly to remind everyone that school sponsoring the pole vault, you must have at least one coach who has received the training. Now, if you have a coach that attended a clinic after June of 2018, that requirement is fulfilled for this particular year. Your certification and your mandatory education is good and valid for 3 years. So if you attended a clinic after 2018, then you are all taken care of for this year. Each vault coach needs to get training. If you have a coach who coaches both the boys and the girls, both levels, high school and junior high, you still only need that one coach to receive that training. Moving forward, then, we do want to remind people that if you do happen to need the training for the pole vault certification, there are 2 sites right now that we are we find very favorable. The www.pbscb.com and the one that is the nhslearn.com. So if you if you do need the certification, please take a look at one of these 2 sites, and I'm sure you'll find one of them will be appealing enough to you to go to. Our next item deals with indoor track. And we have a number of questions every year on indoor track, and I do want to try to answer and clarify some things. Excuse me. First of all, the OHSAA does not sponsor indoor track, and that is very, very important because it basically dictates everything that can take place within indoor track. The Again, schools are reminded that to participate in indoor track, they are solely responsible for any kind of insurance coverage, and that the OHSAA does not provide coverage for non-sponsored sports. Excuse me. The local Board of Education must also approve that sport and the coach. Now, one other thing I do want to highlight for you that this went into effect this year. And the sport regulation 8.4, where individual skill coaching instruction has completely changed. And presently, individual skill, this is from sports regulation 8.4, individual skill and coaching instruction may be received by a member of a school team at any time from either school or a non-school coach or instructor. So again, I want to repeat that individual coaching, all right, may be received by a member of a school, all right, at any time from either the school itself or from a non-school where coaches or instructors are available. Now, moving into our seated athlete regulations, beginning with section 13. Again, just reminding people that although only 4 events are currently competed at the state championships, the 100, the 4, the 8, and the shot, seated athletes may enter any event offered at a dual meet or invitational as long as the athletes do not exceed the maximum number of events allowed. Now, what this basically means is that if a wheelchair athlete or a seated athlete wants to compete in the 200 or wants to compete in the 1600, they are welcome to do so, provided that the schools allow for it. We focused on the 100, the 4, the 8, and the shot, but there is nothing in any kind of regulations or guidelines that prevent an athlete from competing in any other event that they care to, provided that they do not exceed the 4 allowable events. Yes, our next slide dealing with seated athletes is one from section 13 also, which indicates that seated competitors should race at the same time as footed athletes, if in fact there is no other seated competitor available. So if you enter or if you host a meet and the visiting team or your team brings along one seated athlete, that seated athlete has every right to compete at the same time as the footed athletes, provided that there is an opportunity. Slide number 3 regarding seated athletes. A seated competitor should, and I want to emphasize should, earn points for his or her team, even if they are the only competitor in a particular event, unless the schools reach a separate agreement in advance that is non-discriminatory and consistent with OHSAA and National Federation rules. Excuse me. This is similar to what we have done in the pole vault, where if you are coming to a school to compete in, you have a pole vaulter and they do not, but they notify you in advance that in fact they will not be competing in it, then basically it's a non-event and there will be no points given. So it's important that the competitor in the particular event notify the school. Otherwise, that competitor should earn points for his or her team. Slide number 4 is just a simple reminder that schools that are hosting invitational track meets, that they're encouraged to include events for seated athletes, unless, of course, obviously it's a relay event only. Host schools may select the eligible events. Keep in mind that on the junior high level, of course, they are limited to three events, and of course on the high school level they are limited to 4. But they should, in fact, include these people, and they may select the eligible events for the invited schools, provided that they notify the competing schools in advance. So they may not simply show up and you make the decision at race time that no, we're not going to allow this or we're not going to allow that. So they are welcome to compete in any event unless the host school indicates beforehand.
Go ahead.
Okay, coaches and officials again are reminded that each athlete must wear a full-length track uniform top or a one-piece uniform issued by the school. Excuse me. In tournament competition, athletes are required to tuck in their uniform tops. You are also reminded that effective this past year, uniform numbers are no longer required on the back of the competition uniforms. The next couple of slides, many of you have seen on a number of occasions, and I just want to, again, remind people, especially the newer coaches or newer officials, that athletes should wear track bottoms issued by the school, and then secondly, the waistband needs to be worn above the hips and the uniform worn as intended by the manufacturer. Waistbands are permitted to be rolled, provided that a second manufacturer's logo is not showing on the band. Now, according to the National Federation, when an item is selected as the uniform bottom, it is not in compliance if the waistband has more than one logo or reference, or there is a logo elsewhere. So as an example, you'll notice on the left the Nike Pro logo around the waist, but you'll also know notice that they have the Nike swoosh on the leg, which would make those shorts illegal. Likewise, the same you have on the right, you have Adidas with multiple logos around the waist. And again, I do want to remind everybody that these shorts are legal if they are worn as an undergarment. But if they are worn as the uniform bottom, they are illegal. Again, I want to repeat, if they are worn as a uniform bottom, then they would be illegal. As many of you know, we have had major issues with regard to headgear. And again, I want to remind everyone that, of course, the referee always has the final say in anything. So he or she too would have the final approval on the use of any headgear. Any request for a waiver for headgear for religious or medical purposes should be addressed to me. And if appropriate, I will issue a written waiver to be shown to the referee at all meets. I want to reference everybody. Please jot this down. Everybody, please reference the pre-season manual for more specific guidelines. Within that preseason manual, you will find a step-by-step procedure on how to handle headgear, what is legal, what is not, and if there again are any questions or issues, people can then feel free to contact me at any time. This is just a quick reminder that hair control devices or hair accessories are permitted. Pre-wrap likewise is legal if it's used to control the hair, but not as a headband. As you know, we have specific guidelines and regulations regarding headbands. So if as long as the pre-wrap is not being used as a headband, then they would be perfectly fine. Yes, Section 12-2. Section 12-2 requires every school to provide a roster of athletes in dual meet, tries, quads, whatever the case might be. A copy must be provided to each opposing coach and the referee. And in meets involving 5 or more schools, the school roster must be supplied to the meet manager or available to be viewed online. Again, the competition can be delayed until that roster is provided. And this is, in fact, it's not a change, but I think in the minds of some of the coaches it is, since you no longer are required to have numbers for the athletes on the back of the uniform. Despite that change, they are still required to submit a roster. So again, numbers or no numbers, they still need to provide a roster. This slide, of course, is the coach's verification of sporting conduct and legal equipment. And I only want to emphasize this for one reason, and that is because very, very often officials are blamed for disqualifying kids for illegal uniforms or illegal equipment or whatever the case might be. Coaches, you are signing off that your kids are in proper uniform, and you are signing off that your kids are using proper equipment. So this form is very important, especially when we get to some of the larger meets, your invitationals, and of course your district, regional, and state meet. Our next two slides deal with a couple of the Ohio modifications. And again, there's nothing major here, but I do think you should be aware of it. Number one, the head pole vault judge who holds a valid license may be designated to certify the legality of the pole. In the past, the only one who could do that was your head field judge, but now the head pole vault judge can do that as well. Secondly, in 632B, in tournament competition, if a definite tie is already known, the fourth attempt or a fourth attempt at the missed height should be taken before the bar is raised to complete the competition for first place. Yes, our final Ohio modification deals with Section 24. And under Section 24, in the case of dual or tri meets, each school is entitled to enter 4 competitors in individual events. However, it is also recommended that each school be permitted to enter as many competitors as the conditions would allow. Simply translated, at a dual or a tri, as many entries that you would like to enter are in fact permissible. In dual or tri meets, this needs to be decided by mutual agreement, either in the contest contract or by the coaches. Again, without an agreement being reached beforehand, then you would be limited to just 4 entries per event. In meets that involve more than 4 schools, under all circumstances, not more than 4 competitors from a given school should be allowed to enter. And then finally, I want to remind everyone too that if you have in a dual or tri with unlimited entries, if you have multiple relay teams, they are of course permitted, but teams may not designate in advance which team can score. All of them must be eligible to score, although only one of them will in fact score. So again, if your team takes first place, second place, and third place, the only one that would actually score would be the first place competitor, and that would allow the other ones to compete, but yet they would not count in any kind of scoring. Okay, as we continue to move forward, there have been numerous questions regarding our junior high state championships, and of course, I did want to mention to everyone here that the junior high state championships will in fact be held again this year. They will in fact be held at Lancaster High School, and the date for this event is May 15th, 2021. Reminding everyone interested in the junior high meet that to participate in the meet, again, you must be a registered member of the OHSAA, and you must register your school for your track and field through your junior high account. If you register your school through your high school account, that will not include you on the junior high account. So it is important that you register if you're a junior high, high school type situation, that you register through for your high school, as well as the fact that you register for your junior high. The deadline right now for the tournament participation is March 26th through your myOHSAA account, and you must enter your team roster through BOMS page. So please, everyone, please pay close attention to that date, because as our numbers continue to grow and it becomes more cumbersome to work through this, again, we need your cooperation, and we need you to follow the schedule that we have in place. Likewise, we have several multi-school districts, and it's very important that you understand, and this is bylaw 164, it's very important that you understand that requests for permission to combine students from 2 or more schools in the same non-public school or public school system must be submitted every year to the OHSAA in writing by your superintendent of the non-public or public school system. So again, I want to repeat that because there's always been some confusion. We do accept schools combining between, among themselves, and we do recognize that, and we do honor it. However, in order to do so, you need to submit the request annually every year to the OHSAA, and you need to do so in writing. It needs to be done by your superintendent of the non-public or public school system. Okay, this is a major change that was to go into effect last year, but of course, without having track and field, we were unable to do that. The top 24, in the past it was the top 16, but the top 24 in each event will qualify for the state championships. In the event there's a tie for the final qualifying place, all the individuals will qualify. We are going to welcome everybody we can to the junior high state championship. Only FAT times will be accepted. So don't be sending your own handwritten times that my athlete ran this time and that, and so on and so forth. In field events, only marks occurring in meets using the FAT timing will be accepted. So we will only accept those results of field events in meets that used the FAT timing, which will be accepted. And of course, the 3 events for the seeded athletes will be sponsored, as always, the 100, the 4, and the shot. Some additional important dates for those of you that are interested in the junior high state championships. Please earmark the dates of May 9th and May 10th and 11th as key dates. On May 9th, all final results from the qualifying competition must be submitted to BOMS page by noon. So that's Sunday, May 9th. That is your final opportunity to submit any final results from any qualifying competition. Likewise, Monday and Tuesday, May 10th and 11th, competitors must at that time accept or decline participation by 10 o'clock. That's 10 a.m. So again, I want to remind everyone, May 9th is the deadline to submit any final results from qualifying competition. And then Monday and Tuesday, May 10th and 11th, competitors must inform BOMS page as to whether or not they will accept or decline their participation by 10 a.m. Continuing with our dates, Wednesday, May 12th. On Wednesday, May 12th, all final entries will be posted by noon. So that's why it is important that you notify us whether or not you are going to participate or not on May 10th or 11th, because on May 12th, all final entries will be posted. On Saturday, May 15th, of course, the junior high meet will begin, starting with the field events at 10 o'clock and the running events at noon. Okay, as we move into or move ahead, we now look at the National Federation track and field rule changes, editorial changes, and points of emphasis. Okay, before we get into our National Federation rule changes for 2021, I do want to remind everyone of our National Federation rules book, which are available also as ebooks. And these are immediately available by simply contacting the National Federation. Likewise, I also want to introduce you to the new National Federation Rules app, which is also immediately available. It is free to those paid members of the National Federation Coaches and Officials Association. And if you would like more information, please take note of the address down below, www.nfhs.org/erules. All right, that's www.nfhs.org/erules for more information. Okay, with that, let us then move on to the rule changes for 2020-2021. Okay, our first rule change involves rules 4-6-5 along with 8-6-1E. And basically what this says is that a competitor who provides assistance to an injured or an ill competitor will not be disqualified if neither the individual competitor providing the assistance nor his team gains an advantage as a result of providing the assistance. So again, just a reminder that now, unlike the rules of the past, a competitor who provides assistance to an injured athlete or an ill athlete should not be disqualified if neither the individual competitor providing the assistance nor his or her teammates gain an advantage for providing that assistance. Rule change number 2 is a big one. Effective this year, all right, in relay races in which the incoming competitor is running 200 meters or less, the exchange zone shall be extended 10 meters in the direction of the incoming competitor. So in the 4x1, the 4x2, and other relays, the legs of 200 or less, each exchange zone will be 30 meters long. All exchange zones for races over 200 meters will remain at 20 meters. Basically, what this means in simple terms is that there no longer is an acceleration zone, there is no longer a fly zone. So the extended relay, the extended exchange zone will take place where normally the acceleration zone or the fly zone would have begun. Okay, rule change number 3 deals with rule 6-2-6. And very simply, it states that it is now illegal to run backwards or to run in the opposite direction on a horizontal jump, namely the pole vault or the javelin. So again, just repeating, it is illegal now to run backwards or in the opposite direction on a horizontal jump, specifically with regard to the pole vault or the javelin runway. Okay, rule change number 4 deals with rule 632, breaking ties. And quite frankly, this is not really a rule change per se. This is more of a, in my estimation, more of an editorial change, because basically all it says is that they have now included the metric measurements to the rule, as opposed to just having it in inches. So the 1 inch became 2 centimeters, 3 inches became 7 meters. So there is really no change here at all, just the addition of the metric measurement to be included as well. Our next rule change involves rule number 6-9-5 with regard to the long jump and triple jump. And this is really more of a point of clarification, because we did have some issues the last couple of years regarding the landing pit and the distance, the width, and so on and so forth. So the landing pit shall have a minimum width of 9 feet, all right, and should meet a minimum length of 23 feet. So 9 by 23. For the long jump and the triple jump pits constructed after 2019, the length of the pit shall be at least 23 feet or 7 meters. In the long jump and triple jump, the foul line shall be located by measuring from the nearer edge of the landing pit to the front of the foul line. So the way it would look, the suggested distances are: in the long jump, for the boys it would be 12 feet, for the girls it would be 8, for the triple jump, for the boys it would be 32 feet, and for the girls 24 feet. Those are our rule changes for 2020 and 21. And if all of this sounds very familiar to you, it should, because as many of you know, with the cancellation of spring sports last year, there were no changes to the rule changes. We actually had, in 2020, we actually had the rule changes were made at that time, and of course simply carried over to 2021. So what we did in 2020 is also the same thing that we did in 2021. Okay, we only have 2 editorial changes. One of them, the first one, basically is just a grammatical change where we used to say when it was feasible, when it was feasible, it was recommended that there be an obstacle-free zone on the inside and the outside of the track. We've done away with the idea of it being feasible, but simply stated now, it is recommended, period, that there be an obstacle-free zone both on the inside and the outside of the track of at least 1 meter in width. The editorial change basically removed some redundancy in the language from the book. Okay, our second editorial change deals with the relay baton and the exchange zone, and this is just a quick reminder that a relay team shall pass its own baton in accordance with the rules. The track rules relative to fouling, coaching, or interference apply identically to relay races. Basically, what this means is that an opposing team may not secure an additional team's baton and use that during an exchange. So a relay team must pass its own baton in accordance with the rules. In closing out our 2021 rule changes in track and field, I want to close out by simply summarizing and giving you some important points of emphasis. Our first one deals with the meet administration, and this is just a guideline, so to speak, to assist coaches and whoever in terms of how you might want to handle an invitational meet, the amount of coverage you need, the amount of assistance you might need, and as is mentioned here in the last bullet, while it's not included on most checklists, please pay attention to the following items as they can dictate the success or failure of your event. So starting with the next slide, please take a note or two on how you might make your job a little bit easier. Okay, all of these meet administration rules pertain to assistance throughout the meet. 311 gives authority to the meet director to establish someone in charge of awards. 347 allows the meet referee to delegate an individual to count laps. Number 353 outlines the situations that are eligible to protest. Number 4, 318.3 designates the responsibility for ensuring that each flight of hurdles is set at the proper height and at the proper point prior to each race. Number 5, Rule 318.4 outlines the responsibilities on the block chief, assigning an individual to ensure that starting blocks are in good working order, located at the starting line of each race, and removed at the start once removed after the start is one less responsibility, usually placed on the starter or the assistant starter, whatever the case is. Number 6, the National Federation Rule 511.1 requires that in any relay, a team must start and end the race with the same baton. And number 7, Rule 653 dictates that the state association determine their own procedures regarding verification that a pole vaulter participated on a legal pole. Now, all of these may seem like very simple things to many of you who would say, well, we've always done this, we've always done that, and you very well may be right. But the point behind this, the point of emphasis here is to seek help if you need it. By designating others to handle these things, you are in fact lessening the burden of responsibility on yourself, which of course frees you up to do the very job that you're trying to do, and that's to oversee the running of the event and the meet itself. Our second point of emphasis is the one that deals with the exchange zone. And very simply, I want to just sort of highlight a couple of things here. In relays with, like, for example, the 4x1 and the 4x2, and other relays with legs of 200 meters or less, the outgoing runner, while waiting for the baton, must be positioned entirely inside the 30-meter exchange zone. So again, keep in mind that there is no acceleration zone, there is no fly zone any longer. So the outgoing runner, while waiting for the baton, must be entirely positioned inside the 30-meter exchange. The exchange zones for relay races with legs over 200 meters are not impacted by this rule at all. And then finally, the rule change does not require that tracks be repainted or resurfaced in order to be in compliance with the National Federation rules. There have been a number of schools already who have done a number of clever things, enlarging the one diamond at the top of the where you used to have the very small diamond with the exchange for the fly zone. They've now enlarged it so that it looks just like the outgoing diamond. And so that's one way of doing it. Other people are simply waiting for when they have their track redone, and in the meantime have simply used tape to guide, to assist the athletes so that they know where the exchange zone begins now and where it doesn't. Some have simply put a line across the track. So the rule change should not affect and should not require that tracks be repainted or resurfaced. or any of that sort in order to be in compliance with the National Federation rules. And finally, our last rule change that needs to be addressed again is the one where a competitor who receives aid will be disqualified. But when no advantage is gained, the competitor assisting shall not be penalized for exhibiting good sportsmanship. The final decision, of course, for this rests with the meet referee, who has the sole authority to rule on the infraction. However, again, very simply put, the individual who is helping a injured or helping a ill competitor would not be disqualified, provided that they did not gain nor their team gain any particular advantage. In closing, just a little reminder here, a little point of emphasis and support for the National Federation and the USATF, where they are offering a track and field coaching book, which displays fundamentals of running and so on and so forth. It does in fact include units on running, jumping, and throwing, and it is available with the USA track and field membership. That concludes our 2021 rules interpretation meeting. And again, my final slide here says if you have any questions, which obviously I know it's difficult, to do it over online, but please feel free to contact me at any time if you have any questions regarding the upcoming season, regarding any rule changes, regarding anything at all. This has been a very difficult year, 2020, and equally difficult in 2021. So we do want to make ourselves available. A lot of things have happened, a lot of things have changed, and we simply want to make sure that everyone knows that there are a number of us, Steve Hurley, Bob Muehlman, myself, your Coaches Association, your Officials Association. There are a lot of people who are available, a lot of people who are very knowledgeable, and a lot of people who are more than willing to help. So have a great season. Best of luck to everyone. And hopefully we will see you at the state championships in November. So thank you again.